Do you have cool stuff to show us?
I'd have to put them back on first, but
I hope
sure,
I
go
have
ahead.
stuff to show you.
Do you remember how to
This
share?
is so, I wish I had more time. I'll explain. I'll try to give you what I have, and I think what I have will knock your socks off. It knocked my socks off. So, let's see if I can share my screen. How do I do this?
So right by
Let
like
me
the
just
mute,
introduce. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna show you how to share. There's buttons down in the lower left-hand corner. The first one's a camera, the second one is share screen.
Entire
I
screen.
think I gave
Okay.
you the role. Yeah, so you should be good.
Do you see my screen?
No. You have to choose which application you want to share. So depending on what you're going to
Okay.
share, you can
Okay.
probably do full screen or whatever. There you go.
Okay. How's that? All right. So let me see. Can you see my screen now?
Yep. Telegram.
Okay. Telegram. I just put everything up here. Okay. So let's see. I'm going to do this. Let's see. How can I do this? Yeah. And then I'll share it big when. Okay, so I just want to introduce myself. My name is Patricia Halliday, and I came into Flat Earth, and I don't know if I True Earth, whatever you want to call it, because my son's missing. He's the Fort Bliss soldier. He's been missing for 1,071 days, and there's been a lot of irregularities, like they like to call it. Um, And so we've been fighting to find him, and I got a little text message, that said, "Look, ma'am, if they lie to us about the moon, they are definitely lying to you about your son." And that was just really a strange comment. And so, here's my son, a distinguished honor graduate from basic training and AIT, and also the Inesagian First Absent, um whistleblower soldier. But anyway, I took this picture. This was my first picture of the moon with my camera. And I looked at it and I went, oh my gosh, they're lying to us about the moon. And, that was the epiphany. And so I took lots of other pictures, and somehow I was starting to look into the moon. I met this guy here on Odyssey.
Who is
um,
that handsome devil?
Yeah. And I started listening to what he was sharing and everything. And somehow, I don't know how we came to this book, Gleason's book. Oh, the map. Everybody was showing the map. And I was like, well, that map is a little confusing. So I bet you it has a user's guide, right? He had to have described his map because Gleason also had a patent put on his time clock, his time chart. So his map is really a time chart. And um, so here it is. And I was like, okay, I want to know how to use it. And so I got his book. And his book mentions all past time. And all past time was written by J.B. Dimbleby. And so I went and got that book. So one thing leads to the other. And of course, 2/3 of the book is the Bible from heaven. And then the last about 1/3 of the book is the earth a globe. And I think everybody tends, if they get a hold of this book, which is not that easy. It used to be on archive.org, but they've taken it down. And that, which is really strange, right? But the last 1/3 of the book is what really people focus on, because it is amazing proof that we do not live on a globe. But what I've found is, in a lot of these flat earth or the debating of, all the proofs, I mean, one proof is enough, right? I think, who said that? Eric Dubay, right? Eric Dubay said one proof is enough. And I agree with him. Just being able to take a camera and see the ships far away compared to what we used to see them, that's proof that we don't live on a globe, right? This new technology that we have today, supposedly. So, is everybody there?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So,
We Gucci, baby.
okay. So I thought we need to concentrate on what if Gleason created this amazing map that is divided in 24 sections of 15 degrees. If he created an explanation to us about how time works, then, and he even patented it, maybe we should see what he has to say about is the Bible from heaven. So this presentation is called Is the Bible from Heaven, Heaven, Heaven? I probably should do it 5 times because what he starts out with, and I see, one of my images is a PDF. Oh, I thought I corrected all of that. Okay. But what he starts out with is all past time. Not quite. He starts out with saying, look, we need to listen to each other. And I'm going to tell you right now that it's the Bible that clears up everything, right? It shows you how time is defined. And without the Bible, time is not defined. So, and I'm summarizing it in my own words. And he's using Dimbleby's book, All Past Time. And Dimbleby believed in the globe. So he's using his chronology, yet correcting it because of his time chart, his map, which is a time chart. So, and I'm going to just introduce you to some of the things that he's saying in his book at the beginning, why the Bible is from heaven, 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 heaven. And it's just really amazing. So this is, I can make this really big. This is really Dimbleby's All Past Time. And then the second part of it is the astronomical phenomenon that proceed on 5 lines of lunar, solar, and planetary time from the epoch of the first day of creation. So to the present time. And I think that's super. I can't see the bottom of it. Let's see. So I just say it's his words. All of these are Gleason's words or Dimbleby's words. It is a beautiful and encouraging, I don't know what to hide this, fact that all biblical history is astronomical and unalterable lunar time. So let's start with Noah's flood, because Noah's flood is very, very important. It's a starting point where Dimbleby and Gleason create the solar cycle, the lunar cycle, the calendar. So because of finding this date, when did this happen, and all the other dates that go along with it, they could figure out when the eclipses happened, the lunar cycle, the solar cycle, the Sabbath days, that the 7-day week has never been broken because of this date. This date is so important, as is the 15-year solar cycle. So, does anybody else know this?
Never heard of it, but keep going.
Never
Let
heard
out
of
a
it.
lot.
Okay.
And Noah's
I had
Ark.
never heard of it. And so if you have heard of it or you have questions, I'm just learning it. So, chime in if you have questions because, I'm ready for it. Okay, so the 7-day week has never been broken. Now, in politics, one of the very first things and a tyrant wants to do is redo the week. They want to make a 10-day week or a 5-day week or, but it's never been broken. They've never been able to do it. Nothing works besides a 7-day week, which is an amazing thing. And the September equinox, you can debate on equinox or whatever. The moment the sun crosses the equator, an imaginary line in the sky is day 4, Wednesday, 22nd, 23rd of September. Okay. So, with the day of the flood, the year of the flood, and also the year of the birth of Christ, you can find the prime date, which is the epoch, the day of creation. And that, if that doesn't make you curious or in awe of what I'm about to show you, yeah, I think you're sleeping. So I'm going to focus on the 5 lines of astronomical measurement, which is the lunar cycle, the solar cycle, planetary time, and of course, I don't have it here, but it's the eclipses, and that whole cycle. And I found this figure and I thought it was amazing because it has can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. It has the 24 divisions of 15 degrees. And then in the moon cycle is 29 and a half days, right? It's about 29 and a half days for 1 month. So it shows that. So I just wanted to share that because that's very, very important when we know. I was watching the guy in Australia. I really like him. What is he? The Tomb of Illumination,
Flat
right?
Earth philosophy, yeah.
Yeah, flat Earth philosophy. And and even our flat Earth app, I believe, makes the moon too fast. And maybe someone can clarify that to me. Because in my understanding, by studying Gleason's book, the moon takes 29 and a half days, approximately, to create a month, right? So that is something you can, I don't know. Yeah, I just answered my question. But 29 and a half days. And so when you do a calendar, you're supposed to do the months of 30 days, 29 days, 30 days, 29 days, 30 days, 29 days. So where we got these 31 days is an attempt to change time. So that brings me to the time of the flood. So right now, we are told by Globers or by modern scientists that we live in a 28-year solar cycle. It doesn't jive with the moon. It doesn't jive with the stars. It doesn't jive with the eclipses. It doesn't jive with all of our historical data, records, the Bible, anything. So they're messing with time. And there's been three solar cycles in history, according to Dimblebly and Gleason. And the very first one goes to 0, the epoch, to 1721. So 1,721 years. And they named those years AM, which stands for astronomical measurement. So the very first one, so from 0 to 1,721 is called the antediluvian solar cycle. And it is made out of 7 years. So we know that the moon gives us months. And it takes 12 revolutions of the moon to make a year. So we have 12 months. And it takes 7 of those to make the 354-day year. The sun, it's still going, it's still going, it's still going. It's not defined, it's defining the day. The sunlight, and then it's night, it's daytime, it's nighttime, so one day. That's what it's defining. But for a year, it's really the moon. The moon defines, because of the months, it's so dependable. It takes the 29 and a half days for it to fully go through its phases. Nobody can mess with the moon in history. Nobody. And so so this 7-year cycle, at the very end of it, because it's a lunar cycle, even though we call it the solar cycle, because at the end we add 77 days. 77 days. The 7-day week never breaks. And the reason why they added the 77 days is to get the seasons back in sync, to do an equilibrium between the sun and the moon. And then the sun and the moon would have the same starting time over again. So 7 years, lunar through the 12-month cycle. And then when you got to year 1 again, we would have the exact same Saturdays. So month 1, the Saturday would fall on the 7, 14, 21, 28. Year 2, the first month, the Saturdays would fall on 3, 10, 17, 24. Year 3, month 1, the Sabbaths would fall on 6, 13, 20, 27. So you can, with this cycle, with the 7-day, with the intercalary days, which are the 77 days at the end of every 7 years, they just hooked it on that time. Then you can go back and read your documents, you can read the Bible, and you can pinpoint every day until you go back into history. So how do we know where a starting point is? And Gleason says the year of the flood. So how do we know the year of the flood? Well, we go to the text and we go to Adam, Seth, Enos, Canaan, Mahila, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, Noah. We know that Noah was 600 years old. And we check it. Is the Bible right? Is the Bible really from heaven? Is it year astronomical measurement 1,656? And so how do we know this? And let me see. This is so small, I know. This is all the evidence the scriptures used to get the information. Let's see if I can. That for you if I have these out of place. Oh, the charts, they're really strange. So, okay. So let's look at the antediluvian year of 1656, which is right here. So what I have blocked off is the flood time. Okay, and we want to check. How do you check to make sure that the Bible is right, that this is happening, that it jives with the moon, that it jives with the sun, that it jives with the eclipses, that other records have the same information? And well, month 1, which is September, okay, the when the sun crosses the equator, that's when they start the new year. We don't do that, so it's hard to get our mind wrapped around that a little bit, but the month starts at the new moon and the new year starts at when the sun crosses the equator. And so September, the first Saturday was the 5th, and this was and I'm reading from the book here, the new lunar year's day was the first. The solar year was a period not divided into days and would begin this year, the 5th one on the solar cycle, as is evident by its days, on the 17th of the second month, October. So this is September. And when you go to the 17 right here, I don't know if you can see me, that's when the solar year started. It was the beginning of the new solar year. So you have this 7-year cycle. The lunar year starts in the beginning of this 5th year. These are all lunar years, but the solar year doesn't start until the 17th. And that's when Noah entered the ark. We know he entered the ark on the 17th of the second month of the 5th year of the 7-year solar cycle. We know it to the day. And how do we know that? Because on the 10th, so the Saturday before it, it was the end of the 40 days grace, the first day of the lunar year, a sign to Nineveh. Then on December, so this third month, it starts in October. What did I do here? I'm sorry. I just told you wrong. This is October, and this is November, our November, because he's equating it. The seasons are a little off because it's September 23rd. So this is October, this is November, and this is December. The third month is a December, and that's the end of the 40 days of rain. And so you have other documents that say it, you have the Bible that says it, and now you have a calendar that proves it. And it goes, you can follow all of the events, because every time he let out the dove, it was on a Saturday. 7 days later, he did it again. 7 days later, he did it again. And you can count through the calendar. to get the correct date. And so they've proved with this here all the dates of the Saturdays, the Sabbaths, the old Sabbaths, and they, if you go to the book, you can read all the footnotes, what Dimblebly did, who believed in the globe, what Gleason did, who believed in the flat earth, how they did the chronology of the 7-year solar cycle, the antediluvian solar cycle, to get the exact date, to know that 1656 through 1657, because as Noah entered the ark on November 17th, that second month on the 17th, 365 days later, he left the ark. So he went in on the first day of the solar. He came out on the last day of the solar year, on the solar year. So and this is just I made this slide for a previous presentation when I was trying to learn this antediluvian solar cycle, and I think it takes a little while to get your head wrapped around it, because the 7 times 11, the 77 days, they mention that in scripture. Oh, we're in that intercalary days. And so oh, okay, I can look back at the 7th year. That would have been at the end of 1658 astronomical measurement. They would have added the 77 days. So you can absolutely measure time going backwards or going forwards from this date. Okay, so another very interesting scripture that gives evidence that the Bible is from heaven is Nebuchadnezzar's dream. So Daniel's prophecies are super interesting because one, they go by the eclipse cycle, the teams of eclipses. And it doesn't stop there, because this statue that so many of us Christians know about Nebuchadnezzar's dream, the head of gold, the shoulders, the arms of silver, the waist of brass, the legs of iron, the feet of clay and iron mixed, and then the stone comes, and the stone is Christ, and it bashes everything, and it covers all the earth. How many of you know that prophecy?
Not well versed on biblical prophecy.
Yeah, it's a biblical prophecy, and what it does is it gives dates, and if you can kind of see it, it'll give dates BC 161. But it doesn't stop there, because when you look at clay and iron, brass, which is copper, right? Copper and zinc, silver and gold, and with I'm just thinking somebody smart out there can tell me what that means, that this statue is made out of those elements and in the order that those elements are made out of. Yeah. There's a German that he just made a new element map, and I thought it was so interesting, and because he does it with octaves and all of that. So I'm looking into that, because I want to know what that statue represents, besides just the timing, because it's anyway, that I think there's more information there to glean. So With the 15-year solar cycle, there's new information through Daniel's prophecy. Because of the timing that Daniel's prophecy gives, during that time, things happen. And things happen until the rock, Jesus, right, comes and bashes it. And so that is during this 15-year solar cycle. They call it the ancient Hebrew solar cycle. So you have from 1722 astronomical measurement time. So you have 7-year cycles all the way up to and at the end of every 7 cycles, you have the extra 77 days, and you reach 1721 and you start now. Something happened after the flood with the sun, and they don't know what. But then it started a 15-year solar cycle without breaking the 7-day week. And they find that really amazing, both Dimbleby and Gleason. And in that prophecy time, some things really happen that are amazing that you can date. And that is that Abraham left Ur on the 15th of the 7th month, that the Israelites left Egypt the 15th of the 7th month, and Jesus was crucified on the 15th of the 7th month. So things are very, I don't know if you would call them symbolic. Could they conspire and collude and put all of these different things together? I don't know. But this is just a tip of the iceberg of what Gleason and Dimbleby are showing you. Dimbleby's book is amazing because he gives a date for almost every verse in the Bible. He can give, I'm over exaggerating it a little bit, but he gives dates all through the Bible. Has everybody heard of Usher? James Usher? I think it's James Usher. He was the great Bible chronologist. Dimbleby, I mean, he is a kindergarten compared to Dimbleby. So if you haven't gotten that book, you can get it still at archive.org. But you can't get Gleason's, but Shane has it. I have it. So if you want that PDF, we'll be glad to share it. The year Jesus Christ was born, they have dated it at 3,996 AM astronomical measurement. And exactly 2 cycles later, 2 15-year cycles later, in 4,026 astronomical measurement, on the same day, Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist. And how did they find that out? They used Zechariah. Zechariah went into the temple and was told that his wife was going to have a baby. Now, you might not have faith in that, but you can have faith that he went into the temple, that he was a priest, that he was in the cycle of priests, that they can date exactly what Sabbath he went into the temple. And so they used that date. They used other astronomical measurement dates, also writings from Mary, also biblical writings. So they use Chaldean, they use Egyptian, they use biblical, or even just what kind of writing do I want? Non-Christian. I want to say non-Christian writing. But of course, the Bible is so historical and gives you dates and eclipses and earthquakes and all about the sun and when the sun stood still, and about the moon and about the star, and when you think about Daniel right now, giving his timing according to the eclipse cycle, the 18-year, 10, 11-day eclipse cycle. Is that a coincidence? I mean, what does it take for... It's you have to marvel at how smart these people were to put the Bible together if you don't believe it's from heaven. Or you believe you get down on your knees and you say the Bible is from heaven. So, interesting information that I found out is that ordained priests had to wait until they were 30 years old to become priests. And it said they had to wait, and I should have gotten the book clip. I have it on another presentation, but the book clip that tells you that every man had to wait 2 solar cycles before they could become priest. So that's why Jesus was 30 years old, because he had to be 2 solar cycles old, which is at that time the 15-year solar cycle. And then another just interesting information is after Jesus was baptized, he went into the wilderness for 40 days. So then you can count 40 days and see when he came out. So every little bit of information like that, since we know exactly when he was baptized, then he went into the wilderness, he came out 40 days, and you can, with every little passage like that in other books, in the Bible, in documents, you can put it together, and the 15-year solar cycle is proved even for today. That's why our calendar is with us, because it's not right. And they're always trying to mess with the calendar because the time it's not right. So the world works on a 15-year solar cycle right now. Okay, so in Daniel's prophecies, it is noteworthy that the prophetic periods he mentions are cycles of eclipses. This is an interesting connection between his visions and astronomical phenomena. Daniel recorded his visions on the Sabbath day, which aligns with the ancient Hebrew solar cycle, which is the 15-year solar cycle. This cycle reflected in the date mentioned in Daniel 10:4, which corresponds to the 20th day of the first month, known as the 7th civil month. So I made a chart out of what Gleason provided that had all the months labeled. So because it confuses me, I don't know if it would confuse you, but it confuses me, and I just needed a more detailed chart than what he gave. The year that Daniel used in his prophecies marked the beginning of the common team of eclipses. So a common there's normally 70 eclipses in 18 years. 18 years and 10 or 11 days. And each year of those 18 years are the exact same team of eclipses. So if you're thinking sports, you can say year 1 would be the Cubs, year 2 would be the Red Sox, year 3, and those teams never depart from their year. So that's why NASA or any scientist can pinpoint where and when and which eclipse, and what type of eclipse, and what day it's going to be. They can pinpoint that because eclipses are that predictable. They are, and that's why if you know of an eclipse, what type of eclipse and what day the eclipse is, you not only know that eclipse, but you know what year, you know what team it's in. So then you would know all the other 3, 4 eclipses for that year. If you know the team, you know if it's the first year in the 18 or the 7th year in the 18 or the 18th year of that eclipse cycle. So you can absolutely date things just by being aware and recording one eclipse. Any response to that?
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember all those pictures I put in the chat for
I
everyone.
mean, isn't that awesome? I mean, you learn one eclipse and you can know a whole 18-year cycle.
And then Globers today will tell you that actually we only know that because Earth is curved and Newton.
Yeah, I've always heard that like if you observe like, half of the cycle, like 7 years of them of like a 19-year cycle, you can derive the rest of it. But just with one, you can just reverse and go forward with it. That's crazy.
One in
That's
each set.
crazy. That's amazing because they're in teams and those teams appear like, let's say it's a full solar cycle, a full, a solar eclipse. Well, what month is that in? Okay. When you know what month it is in, then you can pinpoint what team it is in. Then you know the lunar eclipse that might come after it or before it, and you just have to wait a few months and you get the lunar eclipse, and then you go, oh, okay, I know it is. That's the team it's on. And so now I know exactly what year it's in.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really amazing. So Daniel's time mentioned in Daniel 12:7 corresponds to 360 years, which is equivalent to 20 cycles of the common team of eclipses. I've never learned that at any of my Bible studies, and I've been to a lot of Bible studies. They never mention this kind of stuff, and I just think this is amazing. The full period mentioned as time times and a half of time is 1,260 years, and it corresponds to the 70 cycles of 18 years each. This is the period when a common team of 70 cycles completes. And of course, you have the greater year, which I'll talk about that, because not only does the sun start anew you know exactly for the Sabbath day, if it's going to fall on the 5th, on the 11th, on the 29th, or, not only do you have that with the sun, you have it with the moon every 19 years with the moon. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. You have it with the moon that every 19 years you look up in the sky and you know that in 19 years you can stand in the same exact spot and look at the exact same moon in the same phase in the same position 19 years from now. And so you can count forward and you can count backward from the moon, from the sun, and from eclipses. And so all of time can be mapped out for us. And they keep that from us. And I think that's, yeah. Okay, these connections between Daniel's, oh, sorry. What did I do now?
Oh, ruined. I'm gonna go all the way down.
Yeah. This one? Is it this one? Oh, no, this. Yeah, these connections, I don't know why I have this here. Between Daniel's prophetic periods and astronomical cycles, such as the common team and solar cycles, can serve as a guide for their interpretation. This suggests that Daniel's prophecies are intricately linked to celestial events and carry symbolic significance. And so here's the analysis of Daniel's prophecy and the timing. So not only is the prophecy done on the eclipse cycle, but listen to this. The prophecy is divided into different periods. Okay, so you have the date of the command that is given. Now, in Gleason's book, and Dimblebly, they give their explanation how they found that in year 3,557 astronomical measurement, that was when the prophecy happened. Okay. And then it's divided up into 3 periods, a 49 years for 7 weeks. So 7 times 7, which amounts to 47.5 solar years. Okay. And then because these are lunar years, sorry, I should explain that the weeks are lunar years. And so when it says 7 weeks, those are lunar years and there's 7 times 7. And so it equals 49 lunar years, which is 47.5 solar years. The second is 434 lunar years because it's a bigger time period, 62 weeks. And it equals 421 solar years. And the third period is just 3.5 years or half a week. And that's a lunar year. So if you add those together, it comes to 472 solar years. And they will explain to you how that they were doing everything by solar years, and then they discovered if they did it by lunar years, everything made sense. So that's the solar analysis. The lunar analysis is the 69 weeks, of course, being converted into 486.5 lunar years. And the equivalent of that would be 472, just like the solar. So it's the same period of time. And so the ending of the prophecy, and if you've ever been in a Bible study, they go on and on about these weeks and about the rapture and this and that, which, I think the rapture is a psyop. They'll go all into all of that. And I know this is a little confusing just to hear in a 5-minute part of a presentation, but I just want you to be introduced to this information so that if you're interested in it, you can go and look at Dimbleby's work, you can go and look at Gleason's work, and you can understand it better, because from 3,557, when the prophecy begins, that's that big statue, till the end, 4,029 astronomical measurement. I don't think you'll find that anywhere else. They'll always give you lots of charts and lots of what Dimbleby gives you and Gleason gives you. It's all astronomical measurement, and it's amazing. This is the cut and paste eclipse team cycle that I was talking about, that Daniel's prophecy surrounds itself in or goes by. And these are the teams. So you know exactly, if you copy this off and put it on your wall, you know that in the first year of an eclipse cycle, that these are the eclipses that will occur. And that year 2 is always 5 eclipse. And sometimes you don't see the eclipse as well as other years. So, but these are the teams that exist there. And the third year and all the way down. So I just thought that was something that is in Gleason's book, and it's available. So this is that 15-year solar cycle of Sabbaths that I'll explain to you how it is different from the 7-year solar cycle. And this solar cycle started in year 1722 astronomical measurement. And they call it the Hebrew 15-year solar cycle, the ancient Hebrew 15-year solar cycle. Even though they have a spot that they discuss that the Sabbaths aren't Hebrew, they're biblical. They're time. It's God's definition of time, the 7-day week, with the last day being a Sabbath. And then, of course, if you're Christian, we believe that that Sabbath now is celebrated on Sunday because of the resurrection of Jesus. So, so this is really our calendar. This is what we should have as our everyday calendar. And the more you learn it, the more you'll be in awe of it. But it starts here in July, August, September, October. So it's different from the 7-year solar cycle because they don't add at the end of 7 years a just chunk of days like they did at antediluvian time. And when you go back and read anything that's ancient from Egypt or the Chaldeans, these people that built the pyramids, and I even had that on my Telegram too, these pyramids that I'll even show you, they talk about these 77 days. It's they have recorded it. So there is more than just biblical proof for this calendar, for the 7-year calendar. And then this calendar being every 3 years, a month is added. So you see that 13th month there, it's kind of difficult, but every 3 months, an entire month is added. And that's how they get the equilibrium for and harmonize the seasons, the lunar cycle at the solar cycle, and keep time, keep the 7-day week. That 7-day week is amazing. It's never been broken. So you can I just want you to be aware of this because it is, well, I'll read you just the top part. It is astronomical, being the movement of the moon. It is perpetual and as true today as it was 4,000 years ago at Heber's birth. 3, the 15 songs. Oh yeah, this is amazing. The 15 songs of degrees. Now I've been saying these for all my life, Psalm 120 through 134. I knew they were called the songs of degrees, but these are the 15 songs of degrees, and they represent the 15-year solar cycle. And so when you go back to read those psalms, and we know that the sun moves at the pace of 15 degrees, 24 times 15 degrees to make the 360 circumference of our earth, of our land. That's really amazing.
That's neat.
Isn't it? It's really, really neat.
I like that part. That's cool. What'd you
Yeah.
call them? The 15 what? Is that something that people
They're
read
called
as
and they're called the 15 songs of degrees. The songs of degrees.
and you didn't know they were in relation to, say, 15 degrees per hour? 15 degrees of the sun?
I did not know that until I read Gleason's book that refer to the 15-year solar cycle. Yeah. And then when you do some research, they will mention it. When you do some research into that.
15
Yeah,
degrees,
I didn't know that.
What's the frequency for that?
Okay, so when you look at Gleason's map, he divided the day into little pizza slices of 15 degrees, and there's 24 of them. So 24 times 15 degrees, every 15 degrees. That's also the speed of the sun. Isn't that right, Shane?
Yep.
Yeah, so yes, help me out. So I'm just trying to understand your perspective. So how often does the sun shift 15 degrees? How many days?
every hour.
So every hour there's a 15-degree change in what circumference?
Okay, so let's go to a map. That's a really good
Because
question.
so a circumference, a circle is 360 degrees. You're saying 15 degrees of what? What would be
Okay.
yeah? So you understand what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
it can't be 15 degrees of 360 degrees. There's no way. Unless how many days are we talking about here?
One day.
No, yeah, that can't be it.
One day. Every day. Let me go back. Okay, so here it is. So here's the sun, right? And do you see my screen? So see these marks? This is 15 degrees, each one of these little pizza slices. Right?
Hold on.
And
Let
as
me
the
check. Let me
sun,
look.
yeah. And this Gleason's map here.
Which chat you posted? Oh, you're in live, right?
She's streaming.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so, and
see.
I'll even read it. The sun completes one revolution in a day, which equals 24 hours and 360 degrees. So, as a flat earther, we believe that the sun is making a big 360 every day, right?
Correct. That's
Okay.
360 degrees. It's a full circle.
Right.
So how
And-
how many hours is 15 degrees according to your opinion?
Okay, so every 15 degrees is 1 hour.
Now I'm following you. Before I couldn't grasp what you were saying, but now it breaks down. Now it makes sense.
Yes, so
I
every
could
hour.
see that.
But we have to remember that the sun not only moves at a 15-degree pace, right? But it is also moving inward and outward and also changing elevation. And now it doesn't matter at this point what you believe the sun is, because, we have discussions where it is a reflection of Polaris, right? That everything, all of that stuff. We're just talking about that ball, that light that's shining that we see every day. It's going 15 degrees every hour, right? Around our world. It maintains that 15 degrees by alternating its speed. It alternates its speed because it's going inward or outward, or it's going up or it's going down.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. Yep.
Right? So so each hour corresponds to 15 degrees of the sun's rotation, maintaining the correlation between time and angular measurement. So God's timekeeping system revolves around the sun's rotation, with the sun serving as a reference point for measuring the passage of time. It is so perfect in its timekeeping because it adjusts all the time. It's adjusting all the time to keep that 15 degrees pace, which I think is also amazing. And
Patricia, would it blow your mind to know that that the speed fluctuation change was measured with laser interferometry down to the exact day of the equinoxes? Like they literally, so how you're measuring the angular velocity, right, in degrees. They actually measured the translational speed with laser interferometry, where they got the 8 kilometers a second, right? So this guy Dave Miller continued the Michelson-Morley experiments and found that there's a fluctuation on the equinoxes where it fluctuates between 8 and 10 kilometers a second, and basically, that's totally in alignment with how when the sun gets closer to us, it's moving slower. When it's further away from us, it has to go higher so that we can still see it, but it also has to travel faster. Like this was literally measured with laser interferometry. This is an amazing presentation. Thank you for this.
I just
It-
actually
it's
made a GIF regarding that exact same thing, literally like 10 minutes ago, maybe 20 minutes ago. I posted it. So this is the sun at the equator, in Ecuador, the capital of Ecuador. I forget the name of it. And I did it in stellarium, but there's a fluctuation. I call it an oscillation, where the sun, you know, compared to the fixed background. Now, you know, I was talking about this earlier, a sidereal year, right? Versus a solar year or a year in real time. The sun and the stars seem to be on different circuits. They run on different times. Same thing with the moon. They all have their independent circuits. And I don't necessarily agree with the heliocentric model of a sidereal year. Doesn't really make much sense to me. And I noticed the sun doing things that are inexplainable that I've never heard anybody talk about. But I notice it. You know, some of the Hebrews notice it. And I talk about this oscillation. I posted it right there. You'll see the sun deviate. And this is if you look at the equinox, when it's been the last 4 years, for example, consistently from year to year, the equinox, it's universally accepted to be on March 20th, right? According to UT time, which that's a whole nother topic on its own. How do they determine UT time, universal time, using ephemerises,
Hey,
ephemerae?
I can tell you about
Which
how they do that later.
I also
but
did.
do we want to get
Yeah,
back
which
on
I
track
also
with
did.
Patricia?
Yeah. Real quick, I'm almost done. Which I also agree with. But so what I have here is an oscillation of the sun at the equator, and it actually bounces back and forth. Now, if you won't notice this with your eye, but you'll notice it if you have a sundial, and you'll notice it if you actually zoom in on stellarium. If you have it zoomed all the way out, you might not notice it, but you can see the E right there. That's 0 degrees latitude at the equator. And the sun, actually, you can see it shifting incrementally from year to year. I have a 4-year cycle right here. That's significant amount of movement back and forth. How could the heliocentric model possibly defend this oscillation of the sun? They couldn't.
Hey, are you aware that Patricia is doing a presentation?
Yeah, I'm all done. But I just had to mention that because you just brought it up and I couldn't resist.
Yeah, that, and I wanted to point out that when going back to Noah's flood, because Noah's flood I want to give a presentation just on that, the eclipses come into play too. So what we talked about with the eclipse is that if you know one eclipse that happened in the very first week of creation, and then of an eclipse that happened in year 3996, and you can work your way back through the whole eclipse cycle. That's pretty amazing. So we talked about that. We talked about this 7-year. I talked about that, the 3 different types of solar cycles. So you have the antediluvian from year 0, that's the epoch to 1721 astronomical measurement. And then from 1722 to the end of 3999 astronomical measurement. And then 4000 AM. And the reason why they divide this, even though this is still a 15-year solar cycle, is because there was a weird, they messed with time there with the Christian era. There's 1 year off. So we should be, we're not using astronomical measurement dates. If I say to you, we're in year 6,800 or something like that, that doesn't mean anything to you. But if I say we're in 2023, that means something to you. And so, you know how people have said, oh, there's 1,000 years missing, or well, Gleason says there's a year. There's a year. They messed with a year, but because of changing into the Christian era. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you, which is amazing, is the 651 day eclipse cycle. So you can go back, and it's kind of long, but you can go back. This is divided into 325, 326, 325, 326, 325. So these are AB years of the greater eclipse cycle. And what that means is that every 651 years, the entire eclipse cycle repeats itself on the same day, which means the exact, just like the moon, every 19 years, eclipses, it takes 651 years. Did I say 500? 651 years to get to the same day. So it's a big chunk of time, but it really helps you date things. And if you know those 651 years, because let me show you what an eclipse calendar looks like. Okay, so here it is. This is another a gauge for proving all past time. 651 years all the way through astronomical measurement, 5,861 was 1861 AD. So these are eclipse cycle, but let me show you. I don't have these in order quite. That's something I made for eclipses. Okay, so this is really using a globe Earth. And of course, I've shown, let's see if I can have no, I don't have one. Maybe Shane has it. But you can see at this chart, the only thing you really need to see at this chart is how it goes diagonal. So this is the 18 year, right here is the 18 years. These are the eclipses, and when they repeat themselves, they are 10, 11 days difference. When they repeat themselves in 18 years again, because the cycle is 18 years and 10, 11 days. And another 18 years, 10, 11 days. So they're always off by 10, 11 days. And that's why they can absolutely know when they're going to show up in the sky, right? When they're going to happen. And why is it 10 or 11 days? Because the moon makes a year in 354 days. The sun makes a year in 356 days, 365 days, which is the difference between 10 or 11 days. So that is another reason why we know that we live on a flat earth, and that the moon and the sun, that are the same size, are moving around, and they're moving around at different speeds. We know that the sun maintains 15 degrees all the time in its movement forward. So, and they're 10, 11 days difference. And so, of course, the eclipses are going to shift 10 or 11 days all the time. But that whole, if you plot it and plot it and plot it, and you plot it for 651 years, then all you have to do is copy and paste it again. Copy and paste everything you've collected for 651 years, copy that and paste it for the next 651 years. And then
Right.
copy that and paste it for another 651 years.
So all of time and all of the cycles can be eclipsed and encompassed in this one 651 year chunk that we can call a cut and paste. What great astronomical year? What's the term for that?
A great astronomical year. 651 year great astronomical year, cut and paste.
So, like, say if I were to pretend that I'm making glow predictions, but I knew the 651 year cycle, I could make predictions for anything that would happen in the sky for the foreseeable future for anyone's lifetime,
Yeah.
and I could
And
claim
you see that these are 18. These little yellow stripes here. These are 18 years and 10, 11 days apart, and you can see how they shift too. Right? How they shift too. Which that's why I put this on here, because I thought that illustration was pretty cool, because it shows the diagonal shifting of the sun, the moon, the eclipse cycle. Yep. And so every 651 years, if you can pinpoint a day in that 651 years, you've got a key to time. And that should give you shivers, because that's been kept from us. And no wonder they want to, because one of the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest record of all time, record keeping, it is the Bible. And then you can use Josephus, you can use the Chaldean, you can use the Egyptian, they kept records too. They were very big, the people that built those pyramids and all those structures for the sun and the moon and the equinox and the solstice and all of that. You can compare, like Dimblebly did, like Gleason did, and the Bible is from heaven, heaven, heaven. Because everything in the Bible is backed up by the 5 astronomical measurement, the 5 lines of astronomical measurement. Everything. And, you don't have to believe me. I'm just trying to make you aware that that part of the book is worth the read. And why am I doing this? I mean, my days, evenings are so consumed with getting justice for my son. When you look into this, it puts such a skip in your walk and gives you so much energy and gives you so much power that you can go out and you can fight for justice. So
Right.
I'm very eternally grateful for that person and I don't even know who they are, that texted me that said, if they're lying to us about the moon, they're lying to you about your son. Yeah. And here's the planets. So, and I didn't want to leave the planets out because they are part of the 5 lines of astronomical measurement. Does everybody understand what the 5 lines of astronomical measurement are?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And this is the wandering stars and the motion and the geocentric world. But how do you know any of the cycles that they make? Because I don't know any of I don't know what I would even call the cycles.
Well, you've been doing a lot of that with all of your star and planets motion, haven't you?
Yeah, a little bit. But I mean, like, I don't know what
How
to call the
fast do they
cycle.
move? Do they move at a 15 degrees rate?
That's a very good question. I have no idea. I have no idea how fast the wandering stars move in relation with the basic things that I know about the speed of the celestial object is the sun is about 4 minutes slower than the sidereal rotation. And those two things added up together means that the sun is constantly slowly processing throughout the constellations in the roundabout manner to give us the great precession of the equinox. The static stars they move at the 15 degrees per hour in perpetuity forever. The wandering stars just sort of do their own thing in their own time, and I have no idea how they fit into the rest of it, to be honest.
And but they are, I just took a picture the other day and I'm like, does anyone have an app to tell me what star this is? Because I think it's a planet, or a wandering star, I should say, wandering star. I don't I think we need some kind of astronomer to come on here and give us a lesson on the wandering planets or the wandering stars, right?
Yeah, we could ask Professor Parks.
I've heard one good theory, but I have yet to confirm it. And it's that so the five in conjunction with the sun and the moon makes 7, obviously. Quick maths. They do something at the beginning or the end of the day or the night, I can't remember which one, that indicate what day you're actually on. So even if you were a little lost, you could determine whether you're on the first or the second or the third day.
Ooh.
But you'd have to do your due diligence. It's one of those things I haven't quite got to yet, but it's a good argument. If it is accurate, it's a good argument for those who are all confused about the Sabbath. So, well, look, here you go. It's in the sky. But if not that, then I suppose there's the potential that they might just be disobedient stars. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
I like that idea though. That they serve like the ultimate purpose to fine tune. Should you get lost looking at the great Skyclock, they're there to like subtly bring you back. Like, hey, you're in this, subtle epoch, so you can, you're at this stage in the great 651 year cycle, so you know exactly what's coming next.
Mm-hmm. And they absolutely use they absolutely use the wandering stars for their timekeeping, for their chronology. But they don't go into great depth on, because I think it would probably be a whole volume of how to determine when Venus is going to be where it's at on what day, and but I haven't gotten there yet. I was just checking. I was trying to understand the Psalms and Daniel's prophecy and Noah's flood and the Exodus. The Exodus is amazing because they leave on the self same day. And Moses says that on the self same day. So when you and Abraham and any big event that happened, of course, Christ and Easter, just the Passion Week, or being 3 days, a lot of people go, what? But he wasn't in hell for 3 days. He was in the grips of man for 3 days, and they put the whole timing of that and compare it to the astronomical measurements and all of the Jonah analogies, and it's really, there's no doubt then. It's kind of like what Eric Dubay said, one proof is enough, right? One proof is enough. With the Bible, it's a little bit more difficult. You have to prove several different things, but it really is amazing. So I think that's the end of that. But I did have I was looking at your videos and sharing them because I think that if you go on to Lamplit Chronicles, you'll see I've been just putting up as much information as I can to help decipher what Dimblebly and Gleason, what their work is. Trying to put it in bullet lists. The sojourn of the children of Israel, how they figured out all the timing, the lunar years and the solar years, and it needs.
That's a lot of notes.
Yeah, it's a lot of notes. This is the 15-year analemma solar cycle. that I put together just to let people know that the sun is doing all kinds of things. It's making this big flower, right? But it's
Hmm.
still keeping up its 15 degrees pace.
How many eclipses are in there? And how many analemmas do you have?
Well, I did put there is the proper number. It's 15 times 354 plus the intercalary days.
Oh
That's
man,
how
you
many
really
is in
you
there.
really put them all in there.
Yeah,
That's so many. I couldn't count. I just figured that you were, doing that.
yeah. Because I wanted to know, a lot of it's cut and paste. You get 1 year, and then you have to add every 3 years the 1 month, right? There's that extra month every 3 years in the 15-year solar cycle. So, you know, yeah. And if it works, it's like, plotting the eclipses. That was so awesome, right? So here's these pyramid pictures I thought were really amazing. Because if people know how to build this, they know how to keep time. You know, they know how to keep time. And so that's why they use even though the Egyptians and the Chaldeans, their writings didn't come about until after the dispersion. And if you don't know what the dispersion is, it's the Tower of Babel. So the Tower of Babel event, um,
We were just
isn't
talking about
it?
that for such a long time before you
Yeah,
came in. Oh,
you have the Tower of Babel event, then there's a dispersion, then you have everybody building ziggurats and pyramids are all over, right? They're all over. So what was the Tower of Babel really? Was it one big pyramid? I mean, or a ziggurat? Just to me, I don't know. I question things.
nice. Wait, do we have any questions about anything she presented or anything anything anyone want to throw in before we start going down pyramids? Anyone? Look at that one. See, we were talking about this the other day too with Orion. If they're not really aligned to align, they're aligned in the exact proportion that the constellation is, and it's the only constellation that can be seen from all over flat Earth. And there's some
These are
sort of
salt
significance there.
crystals. These are salt crystals. So it's very interesting.
Well, supposedly they did some computer, and I take that with a grain of salt. Computer algorithm, whatever. How they proved that it takes 26,000 years for us to go through all these to complete the wobble of the ball, right? So they came up with all this computer stuff to prove that all that stuff, and then it turned out that, oh look, the Orion's belt lines up with the pyramids of Egypt every 26,000 years. But conveniently enough, nobody's actually witnessed that. So then it just
Well,
goes into another argument of about, like, it
well, that's
is
what I
kind
mean.
of absurd.
It's not like aligned every 20. And besides, I think the good point you bring up is how do we ever know something that's 26,000 years first?
Exactly.
Like they say, the great astronomical age, and
Right.
and we can't actually measure more than a lifetime. So if we're talking 4,000 years, it's still hard. But
Totally.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know how they do that. Like the great age, that lines up the same way they say we have the precession of the equinox, like in the age of Aquarius, but we've only had like 3 ages of the 12 zodiacs in all of history and time. I don't know. Sorry.
Right. Well, then also you have the Eastern zodiac, where each year, like I guess we're in the year of the rabbit, I guess, right, or something right now. But for that will be that one sign of the zodiac, and I find it interesting because they both use animals or whatever. But anyway, so that sign Eastern, it lasts for 12, like the 12 months, right, the whole year. And then I know some people from Asia, and actually it's like 12 years or whatever. There's a different calculation. But if you compare that with what we do here in the West, it's once per month for each sign for 12 months, right? So if you kind of compare those together, somebody's bullshit. Somebody's full of shit. And I'm like, all right, well, if I can't actually compare with what you're saying as reality, then why would I go along with what you're saying? Like, if I can't go out there and witness it, that leans on the trickery
All right.
side.
What else we got?
I just wanted to read, some of the stuff I put up. It's amazing. And it says here, moreover, the solar cycle allows for the determination of the date of creation as the first day of the week, the first day of the month, and the first year of the solar cycle, which is precisely 1,656 years before the flood. So the self-same days are really important because, like in the 7-year solar cycle, and I forgot to mention this, every 133 years, the solar New Year's and the lunar New Year's will be on the self-same day. So it wasn't that way in 1656. They weren't starting at the same day. But every 133 years, it does. And so that is a recording. If they're celebrating the lunar New Year's and also the solar New Year's on the same day, there's all these festivities, right? That's what the writings have in it. And you know that it was a 133 year or 266 year or there's a big chart in it, 399, 532, 665. So the year is then 665 years after creation. It's the self-same year for the lunar and the solar cycle to begin on the same day. So that's another indication, besides the eclipse, besides the start of a solar cycle, the start of a lunar cycle, it's when they meet together. And everything met together on the epic, which was recorded by Moses.
Wait, when they meet together, so when the cycle completes, is that when they add the 77 days? So is it
Well,
complete?
they went backwards. They know that year 1656 was the 5th year in a solar cycle, right? So they know that November 17th was the beginning of the solar year. So that October 1st was the beginning of the lunar year, right? And so then they go back and they go back and they go back. And when they get back to 0, they have the self-same day for everything. They have the self-same day. The lunar starts, the solar starts, everything comes together and is a great 651-year astronomical eclipse year, right? It's, how are you going to get a 18-year, 10, 11 day start of a new eclipse year, also the start of a new lunar year, the start of a new planet transitory years, solar year, all on the very same day? That you have that great astronomical year every 651 years. When you count it backwards, it goes to day 0, the epoch.
The epoch?
That's kind of mind blowing.
How do we say that?
Epoch, I think. EPOCH. Yeah. So, and that's why the flood year is so amazing, as have that 651 year great astronomical cycle that correlates with the solar and the lunar and the eclipses, and you have the year 1656. When you go backwards and count everything backwards, day 0, everything starts anew. Everything starts. The time clock started on that day, right? The Spirit of God moved. You have to have movement, right? You have to have movement. That 15 degrees was started.
Yeah,
Dang.
that's cool.
Dang, that's profound.
Yeah. So, and I'm just trying to give an introduction to all the little bits that he does because, to be honest with you, it is so profound. It is so amazing that because we have been trained in this global thinking, it takes a while to wrap your mind around it. Does that make sense?
Oh yes. As soon as you start thinking about time not in like January, February, March order, my brain just screeches to a halt. It's so hard to like break that to go, okay, we'll count. But as you were presenting, and I was thinking kind of what Blaze said last time she was here about not being like a solar clock and having to do with the Sabbath. But if we started our clock at like one of the solstices, particularly like winter or summer, that would make a lot more sense to my conception of the world and flat Earth and how things start in a cycle. And I mean, so is the solstice one of the is that the ending of the 15-year solar cycle, or is it like is it part of it? I'm trying to figure out. It must end on a solstice, right?
November 22nd, 23rd. So it's
Right.
when the sun and the moon are at the highest spot.
But
I
like
think it's
our winter
sorry.
solstice is when the sun is furthest away on the Tropic of Capricorn before it starts its retreat back inward, right? And then summer solstice is when it's at its closest point here. I get the Tropic of Cancer for giving us summer in the north, right? So when it's at its closest point to us, right before it starts to retreat back out.
I think these events happen a lot more often than they want us to think. That's why they come up with these time calendar psyops, if you will. You know, because if you think about it, you kind of have summer and winter every day, every 24 hours. It's it's warmer and cooler in every 24-hour period based on these things that we're pointing out in the sky, patterns when they're there and when they're not. Right? There's people that come up with these calendars, and oh yeah, well, that means you got to work for you got to work your ass off your whole life for me. When that thing's up there, when it goes down there,
All
you
right.
got to
All right.
slave for me, and you know.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're
And
almost at 2 hours.
yeah, thanks so much, everyone. Um, I just
Well,
hope
thank
that that
you.
was an introductory to. I think we need a foundation in the in what in our way forward. And I think that foundation is to be sure that there is a maker and he created the time, and that when NASA uses time, we should tell them, get your own time. What time are you using? What degrees are you using? What all of mathematics is from time. You know that from that GPS presentation. They need to get their own time. Go get your global time and
That's
do your
ridiculous.
calculations with that degree, those days, because they're messing with our time, and our time is really sure, and they've confused us and made us doubt that our time is sure.
Well, in their universe of planets, shouldn't each planet have its own time? It's kept by
I
Exactly.
know
each
it's
planet's
so
Earth spin.
ridiculous, dude.
So then time couldn't possibly be correlated across any more than one planet because they have all different
Mhm.
reference frames. Jesus, what a mess.
Did we just cop all their time? Is it ours
Once you
now?
start looking at it, you realize it's a
So
scam.
if she just said
Yeah.
that God
It's a scam.
created time, but like maybe God created the luminaries which we use to keep time, maybe if
Exactly.
time is a
There you
man-made
go.
concept.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
But what does
But
that
it's
say
no
about them?
mistake.
What,
It's no mistake that it is so perfect every 651 years, right? That you
what does
have
that
those
We
say?
can say
self-same
it's
days.
perfect, but we don't know if that's 651 years, 651 million light years, 651 trillion,
Yeah,
yada,
but
yada,
like,
yada, labels that men and calendars and they come up with to control each other. But we do know it's consistent. We can say
What does
no.
that say about them using
Well,
time dilation, right? So if God created time, they're inverting and perverting it to stretch it and elongate it to man's
For
consumption.
personal gain.
To say that
They're doing it for personal
yeah,
gain.
that's a crazy, and their religion is like satanic inversion. And how's that for you? We're gonna
right.
invert
Yeah.
your creation
They
of time.
they can't mess with the moon. And maybe that's why they're so fascinated with the moon, because they can't mess with the moon.
Well, they can't
It's
mess with
just
any of that stuff up there. They're just making claims
right.
that
Well,
people
they
are realizing,
can
oh, wait a second, the moon actually, you can measure that, you can actually see it, it's consistent, so we can't really twist and warp that to our personal gain. So, hey, let's make it the sun, and then we'll release this Gregorian calendar, we'll change it, so everybody's always confused, and every 4 years you got
Mhm.
to add a couple of hours, because it's always, and then you got daylight savings. Yeah, we could just keep them confused, man. That's why we can pick their pockets.
But
Yeah.
it's
Well,
bigger
yeah,
than that because they have us on a 28-year solar cycle. And so their calculations that they're using, or well, maybe that they're making us use for certain things, is on a 28-year solar cycle. And that's all wrong. It's just wrong. We're on a 15-year solar cycle. And that's not me
Well,
talking. That's, you know, um,
well, I think what they do is they twist it and confuse people and throw a little bit of truth in there, because the 28 cycle is actually pretty accurate, but it's not solar. It's not it's lunar. They used to
mhm.
have 13-month calendars for thousands of years that never went wrong. You didn't have to do this daylight savings. You didn't have to do a leap year every so often because some pope decided that he wanted the month named after him to be more days than the other 28. He was like, hey, you know what? My month is 31 days and I'm the best because I got a bigger number. Yay. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
no, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's what happened. That's when they introduced the Gregorian calendar. Pope Augustine,
Oh,
he's like, wait a
but
second, I want my month to have more days than everybody else. So he introduced the Gregorian calendar so he would have 31 days in August. And that's
like
why you end up
so.
with all this crap.
But it's so clear that they just use time as another way to like confuse and befuddle the
Totally.
masses. They're like, hey, if
Yep.
there's a method that you can use to keep track and keep, to keep things going and make coherent sense of the chronology that we give you, and it's like, oh, and now we're gonna like spin it around, play doggy, like put a blindfold on, okay, off you go. They don't
Then you
teach you
stir the pot.
any of the ways that they used to keep track time. They don't even teach you about the Bible. So they, especially Gleason, figure it out 15 degrees per hour. Doesn't that make way more sense on flat earth than anywhere else?
Well, whatever it is that makes sense, their tactic is to stir the pot, poison the cup, and just muddy the water. Like that's their whole game. That's anybody that's played the little or even just watched a magician, a quote magician in Vegas, or a shell gamer on the street or whatever. The, it's very they're tricking you. That's why it's called a trick.
Yeah, but there's a
The
way to
point of
figure it
that is
out, so you
right.
don't have
The
to be
point of that is
tricked. Right? You can.
distracting you. If they
Yeah,
can
but
keep you distracted, then you won't even realize you're being tricked.
yeah, but they trick you all sorts of ways. And if you can figure the tricks out, then you're not tricked. And flat Earth is like the
That's because you're
biggest
not
e-break
distracted.
to all the
Right.
tricks that they keep trying to pull on you. Because if you
Yep.
get woken up to that, as Patricia shows, then all the other
It's
illusions
like a
sort of
house of
fall off
cards.
the veil.
Yeah.
I appreciate you chiming in with me the whole time there, Flack.
I love you, dude. I love you guys. I love
I
you
got
guys.
you, dude. I'm laughing. He's like, yeah, the whole time. Yeah, get him. Yeah. And like another thing.
He's not very good with sarcasm either, is he?
Wait, what? I was about to walk away. What happened?
He
I
didn't
heard
really mean
sarcasm.
thanks. He
Me?
was being sarcastic.
Oh, I love you guys, dude. I love you.
Is that Cracker?
I
Where?
put them training wheels
No,
back
that's
on for you.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Michael. That's Battle Mod.
Okay.
But yeah, he has a new microphone though, so everyone thinks he's a new person. So I definitely see what you're saying.
Sounds the same
No,
to
it's
me,
not
man.
a
I
new
always heard him
microphone. I
loud and
just
clear.
reinstalled my applications. But yeah.
Well, this
Thanks,
is for
Black.
you, Richard. Great presentation. I really appreciate. I'm glad I got in here. I've been doing some other projects. So that's why I haven't been here as much as I have, before. But
Yeah, that was a
one of
great
you
one
was able
because
to.
you pulled parts of the other two, which was nice and that worked really well with it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was dope.
Yeah. Thank
Did you make
Uh,
each one of those like slides? Did you just create them as images?
Well, I made a lot of the slides, but some of the, like the statue that was from out of Gleason's book,
Right.
and
right.
there's a lot to that Daniel prophecy when it comes to eclipses and the solar and the lunar and it's just amazing. And of course, there's a lot to the Noah, and there's a lot to the Exodus. And you can go on, and that's what I'm saying. You could go hours and hours, but I just wanted to let everyone know the Bible is from heaven, heaven, heaven. Go check it out
Well, check
because
this.
I'm
I'm sorry. So let me add to, like, because Shane and I were kind of talking about, okay, why would we go along with something we can't witness? So if you actually plug in the fact that maybe there's people that live 1,000 years or maybe 1,200 years, and maybe they live outside this life expectancy dampening field, maybe outside the 60th parallel, and this magnetic field or whatever. Maybe they have witnessed it, and we're just sitting here thinking all this shit they're telling us, right? Based on their little calendar schemes and what we should be, whatever. It's going to be total bullshit. But if you think about it in those terms, and then the Bible even talks about some people that lived 900,000 years, yada yada, right? So if you think about it, us living only 100 years here in the fence inside the 60th south parallel, right? And if there was people that lived thousands of years outside of that, maybe they do have, right?
or maybe they live up in the north.
Whatever, but maybe, and I think that's why there's a
Why
lot of
don't they? Yeah, I want to see the
yeah.
north.
Well, either way, we're not allowed to go there, but maybe there are those people that are there, and maybe that's why things like astrology, even though Eastern and Western are supposed to be like conflicting, but if you really look at the mathematics and how they do the same type of stuff, it really does correlate. So maybe, I mean, that would, to me, that would be like, all right, well, there's the truth can't really be, it can't really be hidden. All they can do is like pervert it, but it's
And
still
I
going to be
I
there.
honestly believe this, that all of the warring, the psyop warring, is all about hiding time and the earth and what's out beyond that 60th parallel south and what's at the North Pole. They've spent so much time making us believe that the North Pole is an ice glacier like the ice wall, right? What's really there?
Hyperborea.
Yeah, yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah, I know.
But
And with all the technology, guys flying to the moon and satellites and all this, they can prove that it's a spinning ball, but we can't actually prove, like, physically. We can't go out there.
yeah, or was that okay? Here, what about this one? Remember this guy? Let's see. Do I have a
Yeah.
bit?
The moon is plasma.
Ah,
They
the
will never
plasma
land
guy.
there.
Yeah.
I don't know his name.
Oh,
I
it's
just know the thing he
blocked.
said. What?
Oh.
Bachuta's doing that
Yeah,
now? That's ridiculous.
yeah,
I wonder if
it's
I'm
blocked.
blocked.
Can you please share the link?
For the bit shoot
Yes,
If
ma'am.
you, yeah.
or for Gleason's book, that's a PDF. Maybe you have that rule.
It
Click
might be
to
blocked for you, but not for me. I have a different internet
okay.
access.
I'll put it in the general chat.
Perfect. Oh shit. Oh, it said this. It says this channel is blocked under copyright. What the fuck? The parent channel of this video is blocked under copyright. How do they block a channel for that? That's not geolocking, Riggs.
But I think I have it in my flat earth stuff, that video. I think I downloaded it. Okay, everyone, thank you so much. I'm gonna
Hey, thank you, Patricia. This is Riggs. I just I was muted. I didn't know I was muted when I was speaking earlier. But thank you very much for the show. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go back and watch it again. Even.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Patricia. That was great. I'm gonna put it up everywhere. Keep it under 2 hours. Now we have 2 for you. 3.
Awesome. Thank you so much for letting me.
I'll put your markdown links in the chat so everyone knows where to find you.
Sounds great. Am I muted?
Nope. We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'm gonna get ready for my fight with the big green machine.
The actual live stream.
The actual live stream. All right. Bye-bye.
See you.